And we are live. Good morning on your TVs there in Texas and Louisiana on the Smart Money Culture TV network. And good morning around the world on X and LinkedIn and YouTube and all these other wonderful platforms. How are you, David?
I'm doing fantastic. Really great to be here on the Smart Money Culture TV network and working with guys like Fly Mackey who are pushing the program forward. And we will be streaming into many more homes soon. Taking a look at some of the cryptos, a lot of them, it's been a long weekend full of, or should I say, the lack of full liquidity. There's been a lot of liquidity pulled out of the market, and you see the price impact dwindling down to 62 and a half. And I wouldn't say it was a favorable trade for me.
Good. That's a bounce. It went down quite a bit lower than that. That's where it is right now. I do feel like we're bouncing. If you look at the Asian markets right now, it's all green. It's like, whoa, okay. I can actually pull that up here. I'm just loading this here. One of my favorite. And then oil, which I didn't put up there, is down slightly today, but it's like just by the hours or whatever, because it's 83 something here. Let me just pull this up. Here we go.
You see the fear and greed index rather neutral at a 57 marker.
There you go. So look at this green right here. This is the Asia markets. It is all up. Now, that is a very good indicator to me that we are bouncing pretty hard right here off of these lows. You also have the word coming out from the Middle East that Hamas is going to move forward with this ceasefire, this latest ceasefire. Right now, the markets are very sensitive to the Israeli conflict over there. I mean, very, very sensitive. World War III breakout over there is nobody wants it to be imminent. It could be if these guys don't calm down. We have been calling for calm quite a bit, but you see those talks happening over there, and I think that will reflect in the market as we move forward. But yeah, that is the talk that they're going to have some type of a ceasefire, and then that moves. But yeah, you can see all green right there. All those Asian markets green. Now, interesting story. The Japanese yen is absolutely just continuing to crash. So we have the Japanese yen here. This is that's kind of a funny chart. Anyway, Japanese yen is falling sharply here, and the Bank of Japan, the Central Bank of Japan, has said, "Hey, look, we don't. Part of our monetary policy is not the price of the currency," which is kind of funny. It's kind of a funny thing. So anyway, everybody's looking at them saying, "Okay, I mean, I don't think that's going to last very long, right?" Oil, as I mentioned, is kind of tepid. Let me just go back here. And we have oil. I mean, it's down very slightly here, about 0.25%, 83.62 it's at right now. Natural gas, though, is up a decent amount. Sorry, I clicked the wrong thing here. There's oil. And of course, we'll chart some of this stuff up in the middle portion of the show, which we have Matt Dixon on here. Natural gas up over 1.5%. That is interesting. Of course, it's still quite low. If you look, this is the 1-year chart that I have pulled up right here. So this probably, I would say, has to do with the Middle East as well, because the Houthis have really had a lot of influence on the a lot of this natural gas is moving throughout the Red Sea, one of the big routes. And so as the Houthis put on their blockade of goods and services going through here, we saw that really it was very volatile, very volatile. We've been doing the show for about 4 months now, 4 or 5 months, and that has been very volatile for the show. Now we have Bitcoin, as I said, in what I'm seeing is bouncing. It's bouncing now off of these lows. So you see we have Bitcoin right here, 62,572, and that's loading. I'm not in my normal spot for broadcast, so it's not exactly as normal. But anyway, you can see it's starting to bounce right here. I think that's going to continue. We'll see if you want to, might be a nice entry point. You can see it's even bouncing as we're sitting here. Now, if you go to CoinMarketCap and you look, they have a few. It doesn't work on mobile, but on the computer, you'll have the 1 hour, 24 hour, and the 7-day right here. And you can see everything's pretty much down. Tether is just USDT, right? So that's green, but everything else is red for the 24 hour. But you see the 1 hour, we're bouncing. And that a lot of times, especially at this point in the morning, you can see XRP up almost 1%, 3/4. Toncoin same. Cardano, SHIB up over 1%. Avalanche up over 1%. So things are starting to move here. And that tells me that the big guys are placing their positions for the open of the day. So it's Monday morning, and it looks like the big guys are going long. And so you might want to as well. We're not financial advisors and all that good jazz yet. So we also have Trump. The great Trump is in New York, of course, under his criminal prosecution, criminal court case. But other than that, he's so funny. He's like he's now going to have a rally at Madison Square Garden.
Oh, cool.
I don't know Madison Square. Minute. Anyway, he's going to have a rally at one of the big. All right, I'm in New York. I might as well campaign in New York, right? It's a classic move. That's something we would do. When in Rome. You do it. Now, I think it's a big long shot to think that Trump is going to win New York. And it's not that people don't like him or that he doesn't have a great base there. It's just that there's so many people in New York, and there's a lot of people that don't like him. And there are a lot of people, guys, people don't know. You have a lot of, as Biden calls them, newcomers. You have a lot of newcomers, and they don't know, guys. You know what I mean? They're just here. They're in their hotels in New York. I don't know if you've been to New York and stayed in a hotel for a couple of weeks or something, but it's fun. It's fun. New York's fun, So they don't want to mess anything up. They're having a great time. Their people say vote for Biden. They say, okay. I didn't know I was supposed to vote, but all right. Okay, whatever you say. So over the weekend as well, big talk was that DeSantis and Trump met. And so we may have forming of a ticket here. We may have a Trump DeSantis ticket. Do you think that's a winning ticket?
Well, I'm not a big fan of DeSantis after all the stunts he pulled. And I would like to see Tucker Carlson on there. I know that's not reality, though.
I mean, Tucker would be the move, if you ask me, right? I mean, it's Tucker, of course. Of course, we want Tucker. Tucker is like the only person, even the great Elon, who I'm always indebted to. I mean, they canceled my account. They banned my X account. Elon got me back on. They told me, no, it's all over. And I didn't do anything, right? All I did was say that Ukraine was a money laundering operation. And I got banned. So I'm not talking bad about him or anything, but he has to walk the line. He's got to walk the line, right? Tucker is really the only one.
DeSantis has a long run to earn a lot of trust back from most of the people that are supporting Trump. Of course, it doesn't really matter who the VP Trump chooses is because it's a Trump vote anyway.
That's really the long and short of it, right? It really doesn't matter. He could pick Pence again, and everybody would be upset, but everyone would still vote for him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the Trump vote.
It's the Trump vote. So whoever he picks for VP is fine. Does DeSantis add more voters? I don't know. He doesn't take any away. You know?
Yeah,
I mean,
he was the front runner for a while until he actually ran.
I mean, Trump's not exactly somebody you want to run against. I mean, that guy is brutal. And he gives you a nickname and it's all over, man. It's like Lion Ted Cruz. Lion Ted Cruz. Crooked Hillary. Robot Marco or whatever. What was it? It was right. I mean, the guy's brutal. He is. He is a political brawler, for sure. So I think that if it is DeSantis, of course, we're Trump guys. We've always been Trump guys. I don't think, you know, in the first presidency, first of all, I turned my TV off, and then I had to just even back away from criticizing and stuff too, because first of all, it didn't make any difference, and second of all, I wasn't going to like everything that he did. That was very obvious. And yeah, what are you gonna do, right? The credit belongs to the man in the arena, and he was doing it. So I don't agree with everything that he does, not by a long shot, especially some of the people he picks. But I'd be happy with DeSantis. I think DeSantis is fine. Of the people that have been floated, like this girl Naomi or whatever from whatever that Dakota or whatever it is. I mean, you know. Ben Carson, which I love Ben Carson, but I don't know if I really love him as a VP. Of course, again, I would support whoever he picked. You know, some of the other people being floated, they are more of a no. They create more of a reaction for me. Come on, guys, no, than DeSantis. I will say that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so
I'd agree there.
I think we're in for a crazy ride here. I think that at this point in history, we need you know, it's like the King of Dubai said, you know, about the good times, hard times make strong men make good times, and then good times make weak men, you know. And we're at that point. We need some strong men, and that's really what I see there. And historically, anytime that we have somebody like Trump, I mean, we had Reagan, kind of the same thing. They picked this establishment guy, which even though DeSantis tried to say he was an establishment or something like that, he's very obviously establishment. The establishment pushed DeSantis so hard. They were like prostitutes.
Yeah, that's what came out into the open.
Yes,
very bluntly.
They were like the prostitutes at the 4 floors of whores in Singapore. Anyway, if anybody's ever been to Singapore, this place is crazy. Very, very nice, very nice country, but it's crazy country. A lot of these places are. So, you know, our friend as well, and I'm about to bring on Matt here. Our friend Crudo is now in Thailand.
Nice.
Yeah, he's hanging out. I told him, listen, man, it's really nice. Just watch out for the lady boys. That's it. Other than that, you're fine. It's a little bit, the culture there is a little bit interesting. Just watch out for those guys. You'll be fine. Anyway, let's get back on the markets here. Let's bring on Matt Dixon, the great Matt Dixon. How are you, sir?
Hi, morning, David. Morning, Bruce. Morning, everybody. Good. Yeah. Hope you had a good weekend.
Yeah, it was a nice weekend. Of course, you know, watching the markets bleed out, and then I looking for the bounce, and then of course hearing, I think as you were in the backstage, I feel like they're talking about this Gaza ceasefire now, and then it looks like the markets are probably bouncing. It's probably all coordinated, not only just correlated, but coordinated. But anyway, here we are, and it looks like interested to hear what you have to say.
Well, whatever they say, it's probably something else.
That's true too.
I think at the moment it's just a bit of noise with Bitcoin. No great movement. Interestingly, Standard Chartered, which is a great one of those international banks, very credible in the crypto space as well. And they actually came out with their prediction. They increased the Bitcoin target this year from 100,000 to 150,000.
That's a big increase.
Yeah, big increase. And I still think it's a fair target looking at the fundamentals. Everything's behind it. Can't see any real reason why not. And I think we're just seeing
even the dip we're on. I mean, everybody like, oh, it's dipping, whatever. But I mean, we're still at $62,500. I mean, this isn't a big dip. A big dip is going down to 28 or something like that, you know?
Yeah, when we used to talk big dips in Bitcoin, you're talking about massive moves. We're not seeing at the moment those massive moves at all. So I'm just going to go into share screen, and we'll have a straight away jump into Bitcoin.
Great. So, really just add that to the stage here. There we go. The mighty Bitcoin.
So what you're saying about potentially the big players dipping their toes in after the weekend, I mean, it's been a typical weekend, really, that even in cryptocurrency world, which trades 24/7, that even though we still see much lower volume over the weekend, and I'm not showing it here, I could show it, but I won't. If we looked at volume is low on lower prices. So it just means that this decline in prices isn't supported by volume. It's not major selling. It's just basically a bit of a quiet weekend, bit of a decline. We had some strong US figures out. Well, we had a total mixture, didn't we? Toward the end of the week, we got way lower.
It was also a beautiful weekend. I know, at least on the East Coast, which always plays into it too. People are away from their devices.
Yeah. So always a quiet weekend, really, unless something really major happens. Some, like event with Israel, Iran, whatever. But other than that, markets tend to be quieter, crypto markets even. And it shows, I suppose, to some extent. I suppose, as you say, a lot of people are out enjoying the sun. Also, a lot of the institutions don't trade over the weekend, and Bitcoin is becoming more of an institutional asset. So the trading is quieter. But interestingly, I think we're seeing reasonably clearly a corrective move to the downside. I've got labeled here as an ABC down on Bitcoin, and we're still within that parallel channel. So if we touch align to the two top markers there on price and just drop it to lower markers, in fact it hits both lower markers. So it's a true parallel channel now with 4 touch points. So at the moment that's creating support and resistance to Bitcoin, and it's going to struggle to break out of that area. And the fact that we've had this move higher with an ABC move down, the likelihood is that we'll move in line with this red arrow to at least retest the top of the channel. Now, it could be a completed correction, ABC complete correction down here, and then we could just blast off to the upside towards that 100, 150, whatever it is. The next stopping point, I don't mean by stopping, but the next resistance overhead after this one, which is a parallel channel, is probably, well, obviously the previous all-time high will be the next one. And you have to bear in mind, there's all sorts of what they call pivot points or potential pivots in price. So the next potential pivot or overhead resistance will be this channel. Then beyond this channel, which is a parallel channel, you'll have the all-time high, which is here, 73.8, somewhere around there. So that'll be the next. And then beyond that, you'll actually look at Fibonacci extensions to look at what the next target would be. And the next target, there's a couple of Fibonacci extensions that coincide, would be around the 84,000 mark for Bitcoin. So if we break both of these overhead resistances, we could get a bit of a surge. And it's not big in Bitcoin terms, but it's still a substantial surge in percentage terms. The next target could be 84,000, and we could blast through there. But I'm just saying that is the next potential resistance overhead if we break these two targets that we see here on screen. So as I say, all the fundamentals are really solid for Bitcoin. The percentage from a technical perspective of breaking above this channel is 67%, and breaking below the channel is 33%. That's just gathering historical data. When you see a parallel channel like this, which is effectively a bull flag, it's what's called a bull flag. Normally, a bull flag will break to the upside. As I say, there's a 67% chance it will break to the upside and 33% chance to the downside. So good risk reward. I think it's a sensible trade, as Bruce said. Not that we're advising a trade, we're not financial advisors, but it would make sense. It would make more sense to have got in here when we touch the bottom of that parallel channel. That would have made more sense with the stop loss just below. And if you had done that right now, you could have a protected, guaranteed profit no matter what happens. But even now, you're nearer the bottom of the channel, still with that 67-33 chance of 2/3 more upside potential. And the upside potential is much greater. If you look at the actual magnitude of the potential rise, it's much more than the magnitude of the potential fall to reach those next resistances and supports. So technically, it makes sense. Bitcoin makes good sense from this perspective. But obviously, you need to do your own due diligence and make your own choices. But that's from a technical perspective, it's looking good. We'll just have a quick...
The mighty Bitcoin. Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely, yeah. I just wanted to take a little bit of a look at Japanese yen.
Yeah.
Just because you mentioned it.
Yep.
And the yen has actually strengthened in just last day or so. So overall, it's shown massive weakness. We can see basically as this chart goes up, it's showing dollar strength, yen weakness. So the yen is weakening as the chart goes up. And if you look longer term, I'll just go on to the daily, you can see it's actually been a long term appreciation, really. Yes, we've had setbacks along the way, but in general, long-term appreciation. I will just check something here while we're looking, because I just see it looks as a possibility. We had the move up to there, that main move. I'll just measure that using this fib measuring tool. And then we just transpose it to the next wave. Yeah, okay, so we surpassed 100% on that move. I mean, maybe we look back for a further move from somewhere else downside. But anyway, so we can forget that. There's nothing predictive there. But we do see anyway that you can see a very solid move. But until this candlestick finishes, this is a daily candlestick, so it moved down very, very sharply overnight. So basically, that meant dollar weakened. That was yen strength overnight. So I'm not quite sure what caused the yen strength. I'd have to, again, I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I'd have to look at if there's any particular economic data that came out of Japan. There may well have been. Probably worth looking at. But at the moment, the trend is still very much to the upside on dollar, and that means downside on yen. But the yen just saw a bit of strength. So normally, we actually always used to see yen strength in times of trouble. So back in the 2008 financial crisis, yen strengthened absolutely massively. And that's because yen was always a very low interest currency. So as we said before, they actually did money printing back in around the year 2000. I think it was 1999. They actually started money printing back then. So the yen was very, very low, in fact, pretty well negative interest rates long before anything else was. And so what people used to do was borrow money in yen, and they used to invest that money they borrowed in yen. And don't forget, if they're borrowing in yen with zero interest rates, they're paying virtually nothing for those borrowings. And then what they did with the money was invest it into higher yielding assets. So even in US treasuries, or, which would drive dollar higher, yen weaker. And that's what was happening until the crisis came. When the crisis comes, people are desperate for cash. And so they have to cash in all their investments, and the money then repays the loans. And the loans are all borrowed from the yen, which was a zero interest. And that was called the carry trade. So what people used to do was basically borrow in yen, which cost them nothing, invest in other higher yielding assets, and they could pay the interest on the yen because the interest was virtually zero. And it allowed them to invest in guaranteed return assets like US treasuries that give them a guaranteed return, and the cost of the interest on the yen was virtually zero. So it's called the carry trade. It's just easy money. It carried on for a long time. And that's pretty much what we're seeing now. We're seeing the yen going weaker and weaker and weaker as this chart goes up and up and up. But occasionally when you see bits of risk appearing in the market for whatever reason, whether it's fundamental, technical data in the Japanese market, or whether there's risk of war or whatever, you'll still tend to see yen acting still as a carry trade, and they'll basically repay, and that carry will be reversed, and people basically put the money back into yen to repay the loans. So maybe for some reason a bit of risk, and actually I will look into that, and I'll post something on X just to try to identify what's happened. That's quite a sharp move overnight in the yen.
Yes.
So,
and our friend Zero Hedge had a good article. I didn't get to dig into it myself either, but as you look at that, you'll probably see that.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll look into that more. We might report on it tomorrow in the show. So we'll come back to cryptos, but we'll just look at dollar index. We've not seen any dollar index, pretty much the same. We're probably treading water ahead of the FOMC meeting. It's only a couple of days away now.
Yeah,
this is going to be of vital importance. They're not going to lower rates. They're not going to raise rates. They're not going to do anything with rates. The rates will stay on hold. That is 90-something% guaranteed. They're staying on hold. But what the guidance that the Fed gives is going to be vitally important, because that will actually change the perception of the market on where interest rates are going in the future. So the Fed have access to more information than we do. So they will be basing their decisions on more information than we have. And so that's why people will be really listening to what they say, because what they say is based on more information than what we have. So it's very, very important. So if they say interest rates are going to stay higher for longer, then there's going to be there's going to be an impact on the market. And if they say, well, actually, things are beginning to soften, we're going to be lowering rates sooner, then again, have a big impact on the market. So that'll be a big one, again, to listen into. Each one seems to be really, really important at the moment, because we're kind of in a bit of a changeable territory where, as I said, a lot of people are wanting lower interest rates because there's some aspects of the economy beginning to slow. And we saw that with GDP, didn't we, where it slowed now 2 or 3 quarters in a big, big way in a row. So GDP declining very, very sharply, and yet there's other signs that inflation is actually increasing, and we got elevated PCE. So as we've said, they've actually got a big problem on their hands, and it'll just be interesting to see how they're going to communicate that to the market, communicate what their actions are going to be to the market. So Wednesday is the big, big day. So dollar index here, we basically saw a wave up here. We measured it. We transposed the bottom of this wave. And the 100% target for dollar index is 106.67. So I'm thinking we may get slight bit more dollar strength in the market to push us up to that target before potentially we push down. And if we then push down substantially, as we saw, and I'll just zoom out to the long-term chart here, just to show you, as we saw, and I've been over this, I won't go into it in detail again, but every time there's a big move in the dollar index, then that correlates with a high or a low in Bitcoin prices. And we saw that over and over and over again. We've got it labeled up here. Every time there's a turn in dollar index, it's a major turning point. So for example, the FTX crisis was just about high in the dollar. The dollar then started falling, and we started Bitcoin rising. Right now, we're middle of the road. And so this is why it's so key to listen to the Fed, find out which way the dollar is going, because when we see a major turning point in the US dollar, and it could be from this point a turn down, and if it turns down, that's going to be a major pump in Bitcoin, I suspect, because all the highs on Bitcoin tend to be where the dollar is showing a low on this, particularly on this long-term parallel channel. So if we do see dollar weakness, then we're probably going to see that pump that Standard Chartered and many others are predicting. A lot of the big fund managers are predicting. I mean, actually, Standard Chartered is one of the more conservative bets, saying from 100 to 150,000. I've heard many much higher than that. So that will be worth watching out for. So SPX, I've been asked about SPX a few times. I need to scroll out a little bit. This was actually the halving events, and just showed that halving is, in my view, is pretty well irrelevant. It's always priced into the market already, so we don't need to worry about halving. Halving is a great thing long term because it diminishes the new supply of Bitcoin to the market. But we can see here, this is the S&P 500 against the halving events. And if you didn't know it was the S&P 500, if you thought it was a cryptocurrency or even Bitcoin, of course, then you'd be making conclusions or deducing things, saying, oh, you can see with this halving that Bitcoin rose immediately after the halving. Again here, we got an immediate rise after the halving. Again here, rise after the halving. and this halving, obviously we're going to get rise again. So you can deduce things when it's actually completely the wrong chart. So it just shows you need to be a little bit careful about drawing conclusions, particularly about repeating cycles, because cycles, they sometimes repeat, they sometimes don't, and there's no particular reason here why it would. So we can't use halving. Halving is a great thing as a fundamental backdrop to Bitcoin, to the value of Bitcoin as a valuable asset, but it's not predictive in terms of price. So the S&P 500, just opening that up. So we've got all this move now from back for 10, 15 years or so, and you can see S&P has been rising, rising, rising. At some point, it's going to get another big pullback, like it had here, a big pullback from 4,008, and it fell to 3,004, so a massive percentage fall there. That is probably going to happen again at some point. We don't know precisely when, but from a chart perspective, we actually had a long-term parallel channel here, which was for over a year. We actually broke below that channel, and we retested. If we looked at a slightly shorter term, we'd see a retest on the channel, and then a fall. So it's actually possible that it is possible, I'm not saying it's factual, but it's extremely possible that we've already achieved the all-time high for the foreseeable future on the S&P 500. That is a possibility, and that would tell us that there's stormy weather ahead for the risk asset markets. But it could be that this is just a correction, maybe a wave, some kind of wave 4 correction, and we push again to a new upside target. So if we do, and it's actually looking reasonably impulsive at the moment, so I can see that as a real possibility. The next target overhead, using Fibonacci expansions, would be 5376. That's for the S&P 500, and we're right now 5.1. So that would be somewhere, not a massive rise to the upside, 4.5%, 5%, something like that. So potentially a 5% for the next, what would be substantial resistance. Again, we can break above it, but that will be a good area of resistance. So again, from risk reward perspective, there's good potential there, and we can even extend this parallel channel to keep it. It's about there somewhere. We could potentially retest the bottom of the parallel channel right up at that level, 5375. So we could move all the way up to retest that channel and then push down again. So there's a lot of these things do tend to have some impact on price. These previous price levels. So the next previous price level will be the previous high at 5274, somewhere around there. So that will be a potential resistance. So if I was going in long here, I would look to at least protect my profits with a stop loss nearby if we get to that target of 5360, 70, somewhere around, 5260 or 70, somewhere around there. So these are all little tricks of the trade. So in general, the cryptocurrency market, Bruce is saying it's green across the equity markets. I just have a quick, very quick look myself about where we are with the equity markets. But green across the board pretty much, but then we're seeing red across the board, across nearly all of the cryptos. The only things we're seeing, S&P is not open yet. We're seeing gold and oil. So two kind of inflation hedges. They're both slightly positive, but all the other crypto is negative, apart from, of course, eBay, which is actually positive. We're at 1% today, but everything else that I can see, I've got on my watch list, is down today, including the meme coins and Bruce's favorite, Doggy, which is down 3.5% just about.
I was looking at that. I'm like, oh man, this is looking tasty.
Yeah. Let's just have a look at the chart. Yeah, it's potentially looking tasty, but that's quite impulsive move to the downside. There's no overlap between this wave. Oh, not really. I suppose there's no real overlap between this wave and this first wave down. So potentially we could push a little bit lower before we have a little bit of a push.
No, a really great entry, I think, is around 10 cents. You just never know if we're going to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. What we just talked about, pivot points. So I'll just draw that in. I'll do it as a horizontal line. These are actually really good predictors of price. So when you look at a previous price peak here. So potentially, if this was a wave 1, wave 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, I mean, obviously we could break it to the downside, but this is normally when you look at a previous particular price level. So what happened was the price failed, then broke down and did actually break above it. But then when the price comes down and it tries to retest it, this will act as support for the price. So you're absolutely right. That'll be a good risk reward area, a good barrier for risk reward. So around that 10.7 cents I've got here, you would look to potentially go long, somewhere around there, maybe even a touch higher. I mean, maybe at the 1.618 here, 11.1 cents. I'd probably look at going long 11.1 with a stop loss just below. Then you've got potential downside from 11.1 to 10.1, say, for example. You've got a 10% downside on your trade, but the upside from 10 to 20 is 100%. So you've got 10 to 1 risk reward, and you've probably also got the risk of further downside to further upside would also be in your favor. So you'd have better than 10 to 1. So you don't need to get all your trades right. You don't even need to get 5 of them right. You only need to get basically 2 of them right, and you'll still be in the money. 2 out of 10, I'm saying right, sorry, and you'll still be in the money. So that's just how to do your risk reward. So you can afford to lose a lot of trades in a row. The one that we've seen, I've been, a little bit again concerned about. I know Eric gave us a great summary of Solana. I think Solana does have tremendous potential, and I read that there's some massive institutional support for Solana, but short term, we're still seeing some substantial downside. And I'd be a little bit concerned if we do break below this low of 119. If we do that, I think we'll still get some good upside from it, but that's just would potentially be showing us 5 waves down. And again, this wave up here, interestingly, doesn't overlap this wave 1 down here. So it would be a valid 5 waves down. So that would tell us that the impulsive direction has changed to down from up. So it may just be part of a larger correction. So you could get an A, B, C down before we go up again to all-time high. That's entirely possible. But I'm just saying at the moment, things are looking a little bit precarious on a lot of these cryptos. And I think it's driven by what's happening in the economic sector, particularly with America, of course, who are the world reserve currency and the driver of virtually everything. As I say, I've said it before, when America sneezes, the world catches a cold. So we need to watch this American data. And, it's interesting. You mentioned about Japan. It'd be interesting to look at their data, but actually it's virtually inconsequential compared to what goes on in America. Same with Europe. Europe is obviously probably the second biggest trade block in the world. But again, compared with what goes on with America, it certainly affects the euro, but doesn't have such a major effect on things like cryptocurrencies, risk assets here. It's America that we need to watch on the data. So all of the meme coins are down fairly substantially, all down to between 2 and 4%. These are the major memes, and there's a few other memes, but they're all down around that. I can see futures. I mean, you said about green, but futures on the American market are also down, although Tesla's had a bumpy ride anyway. I know it had I think they're talking about classifying their car as a robot, weren't they? Is that right, Bruce?
Yes. And that was, I think, what made that massive spike. I mean, what was it, 12 or 14% at the end of the week?
Yeah, but again, it's falling back. So it's kind of, probably in line with the rest of the market.
Well, Elon is very, he's kind of an emotional guy too. He does a lot of that stuff himself. And as well, that was during he was over in China. So I thought that was interesting as well. Maybe he paid off a bunch of people in stock and now they're selling it. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good move. Nice, innovative idea to try and classify it as a robot.
Yes.
Interesting move, yeah.
Pretty soon it'll be like a transformer.
Amazing. Yeah.
So, I mean, this guy, he's planning on taking millions of people to Mars. I mean, this is a revolutionary person. You know what I mean? We're going to remember Elon Musk forever, probably, for as long as human history.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that it is opening up our imagination as to what we can do.
Yep.
So, yeah, fantastic. So the SPX S&P 500 futures are looking quite positive. So that green in the markets, maybe it will carry through. Maybe it's just Tesla. Just have a quick look at Tesla. Yeah, it's only a small pullback we're seeing really on Tesla there. So the SPX, wherever it was, yeah, is looking positive. And as I say, we could well move up to retest that. So just a quick whiz round some of the favorites. When I say some of the favorites, we've been expecting something of XRP, but again, we've seen some quite solid movement to the downside. So a little bit concerning if that's wave 1 to there and we've got an ABC wave 2, 3, 4. We could still push down. We could still have a further push down. So as I say, there's going to be a lot. There'll be a bit of treading water ahead of Wednesday, but there's also a lot of nervousness, and nobody wants to be caught in the market holding big positions ahead of a big data release or a big news release like interest rates out of America. Nobody really wants to be caught holding the baby, as it were. I mean, look at that. Solana just dipped to 134, and that's from 210 or something, and not long ago, a couple of weeks ago. So there's a lot of nervousness, and Bruce has labeled this market as a hollow market, and I think there's a lot in that there isn't a lot of substance behind this market. There's a lot of worry and concern because of weak data, and yet the market is still holding up. And so it's like being held up almost by straws or something. It is very, very hollow. There's a hollow feeling to it. And one of the most solid assets I feel there is at the moment is potentially Bitcoin. Even Bitcoin has been hammered of late. Yep. But Bitcoin looks to be more corrective than any of the other assets that I've seen. So, yeah, bit of a concern. Ethereum has actually performed well, considering that Ethereum was talking. Let's just turn that off. Ethereum was talking about the SEC were talking about they're taking aim at Ethereum, saying it's a security, and we're not going to see an Ethereum ETF anytime soon. And so you'd think Ethereum would take a dive on that news, but maybe it's all priced in, maybe it's all expected anyway, because Ethereum was one of the stronger performers over the weekend. It's still showing.
Yes, I was. I actually decided that was one of my holds, and I was happy about that. It's performing well.
Yeah. So Ethereum's actually has shown some strength, and despite this SEC news that we're not going to get an Ethereum ETF anytime soon, and they're going to try and classify it as a security, but this would have very negative impact across the market because, as we've said, a lot of tokens are still based on the ERC20 protocol, which is an Ethereum protocol based effectively Ethereum. So if Ethereum is a security, actually a lot of the crypto market will be classified as security. And then also they're talking about Solana. So a lot of these proof of stake tokens, they're calling. So this is the way of validation. When you have proof of stake, it's not a mined token. It's basically with proof of stake, you have validators, and there's a lot of centralization there. And the validators are rewarded, and that's why they're calling it a security, because validators are rewarded for the amount of the cryptocurrency they hold. And if you're rewarded for the amount that you hold, then it's like a security. It's like just holding a bank instrument, bank debt or whatever. If you're holding it, you get paid interest. It's a security. And that's what they're trying to say here is, if you're holding an asset, if it's proof of stake, then you just get paid for holding it as a security. And that's what the SEC are saying. And that's why there's, they won't be able to list they won't be able to get approval for the ETF for the time being. But the battle
they sued the end of the week, what is it? It's not the Solana, it's the, whatever the foundation is.
They've sued Uniswap. They've sued Uniswap, which is, supposed to be a decentralized platform, and they've also sued, believe it or not, MetaMask.
Yes. Well, actually, and what I was saying is the Ethereum Foundation, it's not the Ethereum Foundation, it's the something else, but it's Ethereum, sued now the SEC at the end of last week for them to declare Ethereum not a security. So that may have been why we saw some strength as well. I think, to be honest, even though, as they've been classifying it, they say that that's a security very clearly. I think that Ethereum in the end is going to win. That's just how the stuff works over here, you know, but we'll see.
I think you're most probably right. The implications will be far reaching either way, but I suspect that it's, as they've said, actually, I think one of the things they've said is that they're sticling innovation.
Yes. People are leaving. Nobody wants to do business here. I'll tell you, like, we're partnered with the CC Forum, which is the end of May there in Paris. And we're also partnered with Consensus here in Austin, and same dates. And, we have clientele going to both conferences. But a lot of people, if they haven't done business here in the US and they are a foreign company, they are scared. And if they haven't done anything here yet, a lot of them don't really want to enter the market. People are scared, you guys throw people in jail, and, you never know what's going to happen. And actually, it doesn't even matter if you do something here, kind of. I mean, look at Kim.com. Kim.com never came to the United States. He never had any businesses here. And the U.S., he took all of his money, took all his money and his companies and everything. So it's a scary the U.S. is a scary proposition to deal with.
Absolutely. I know people in the industry. I know people are concerned that potentially they could serve jail time. I mean, we've got CZ's trial, by the way, haven't we? Is it tomorrow, I think?
They're going for 3 years. And, CZ he's been a pillar and I know him. We don't know each other well, but we know each other, and we've done a deal or two together. And, this guy is, he's over here. He came over here. All right, let's handle this. And they're going for 3 years on the guy. And that's just, I think, crazy. I mean, I don't think they'll get it, but that's what they're going for.
Yeah, he's done a lot of good things. Maybe he's did a few shady things as well, and I guess that's what they're chasing him for. But
I would say that the stuff that we did with him, talking about good things, was philanthropic. It was philanthropic.
Absolutely, yeah. He's a big philanthropist, and he does look to, even now, I understand he's looking to help out and consult for companies, but even on a voluntary basis, just to provide advisory from all of his vast experience. So, yeah, he seems to be a good guy, and yeah, it was a very grey area. There's been no proper regulation, so yes, I think there will be some room for. Anyway, just finally, I want to just touch on gold briefly, because we've had a very clear ABC correction down. I think we're probably going to push to the upside. That would be telling me that inflation is still an issue in the US, and gold being the hedge against inflation. I think we're probably looking for more upside on gold. But if we've got inflationary pressures, that means that's why we're getting this downward pressure on crypto and other assets. So that's just to summarize. I'm going to have to leave you because I've got another meeting just starting in a moment. But it's been a pleasure to be with you. Hope that helps everybody, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Amazing. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Matt. It is always a pleasure. And we will see you in the morning.
Lovely. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody.
Cheers. As I said, I'm not in my normal spot here for my broadcast, but I will be back tomorrow. And David and you and I are twinning. We're twinning, David, on our outfits.
Yeah, we got the style going.
Yeah. So how was your weekend there in the Algarve?
It's been pretty great. I'm at the Hacker House here, blockchainhouseportugal.com, and I got to hang out with some of the community here in Portugal. Really has this paradise figured out, and it's very, very relaxed and well functioning. There's a big sense of community. Everybody's hanging out, getting to know each other, and lots of laughs. Pretty good time here in the Algarve. It's beautiful. It's still slightly chilly. It needs to get a little bit more warm for the beach and stuff, but yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, Randy and I decided we're coming over this weekend. We can't take it.
Right?
Too jealous. Yeah, we're on the way. No, I'm kidding. So I wanted to talk about the last couple minutes here. I want to talk about CC Forum, and I want to talk about Consensus. And I mentioned them a little bit earlier, but these are two very important shows that we're partnering with. The CC Forums, our good friend Max. Max throws some of the most amazing events that we have ever been to. And when I tell you that he throws some of the most amazing events we've ever been to, David and I actually have thrown some of the most amazing events that anybody has ever been to, including us. I used to always say that I was very proud of the fact that the best events that I had ever been to were mine. But this guy does a really amazing job. The CC Forum, this is in Paris, back in Paris, beautiful Paris. He is leveraging a lot of the palaces there, and as well, I don't know how much I can say exactly, but he's working directly with Macron's team, putting this together. It's focused on sustainability, but it's one of those conferences I like to say, and I hope he doesn't get mad at me for saying it, but it's a sustainability conference disguised, or it's an investment conference disguised as a sustainability conference. But this is really something else. If you're in Paris or if you're in Europe, and you see our good friend there, Shander Habsburg is on there. I'm probably on here too. If you have more speakers, I'll just click into that. But this is, if you're in Europe, this is, yep, there I am right there. Proud speaker there as well. This is a very important event. And so you're going to want to, if you want to be involved, you're going to have such high-end people here. You're going to talk to, there will be trillions of dollars in those rooms. Okay. So it's a very important event. And if you are in Europe or you're in Asia and you want that type of access, reach out to us. You can also just go on there and register, but you should probably talk to us first. We'll make sure that we get you guys set up if you're raising money, or if you need access to different markets from the highest level. Then the CC Forum is a very important event to do that. So check that out. CC Forum is paris.ccforum, cc-forum, or however he likes to say it, .com, cc-forum.com. Check that out, guys. Very important event. We've worked with Max before. Wonderful guy.
Right on. As
well, especially if you're here in the U.S. or you want access to the U.S. market. Consensus Austin is going to be, and is shaping up to be, probably the most important event of the year. In years past, it has been wonderful. It has been great, all these types of things. But you know how it is, guys. The U.S. is taking such a role in the world. I guess we always are, but we take a big role in the world, right? And consensus in Austin is such an important state. Okay. A lot going on there, as you guys know. And then we have the most important gathering. You have here, let me just go over some of these speakers that we have here. We have Chris Dixon from A16Z Crypto. You have Kathy Woods from ARK Investment. You have Mike Novigratz from Galaxy. You have Anthony Pompliano from Pomp Investments. Sergey Navarov from Chainlink. You have Cassie Rodamore from, he's the creator of Ordinals and Runes. Runes is, like, we talked about it the other day on the show, absolutely taking off. Jin Wang, Optimism Foundation. Tom Emer, Republican from Minnesota, Majority Whip of the U.S. House of Representatives. Okay. Hester Pierce from the U.S. Security and Exchange Commission, the SEC. You have Brian Nelson, the Undersecretary of Office of Terrorism and Financial Intelligence from the U.S. Department of the Treasury. Summer Mersinger, Commodities, Futures and Trading Commission, the CFTC. You have Ernest Klein. He is the co-founder of Readyverse Studios. You have the great Tim Draper. Tim was with us in Paris. He's actually agreed to come on the show. I need to email him. That's good that I saw him. Brad Garlinghouse, he's the CEO of Ripple. I mean, I could just go down the list here, guys. It's on and on. This will be the most important event of the year. And it's right here in Austin, especially if you're looking into this market. We are doing our signature gala. That's going to be on Thursday, May 30th. And that is the Washington Elite Gala. You can register on that. It's right there on my X account, Washington Elite Gala. If you go to Luma, lu.ma/Washington Elite Gala, you'll see that. Or you can just go on my X and do that. And we've done this gala a number of times. You can see here, view past events. We've done this gala all over the world. This is only even a few of the galas. We've done many of these all around the world, from the palaces of Vienna to the Versace mansion to the Harvard Club. I could go on and on. So anyway, another great show. David, awesome. We'll be back on your TVs in a few hours there in Texas and Louisiana, and we will be back with another report.
See you soon.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future of media.